Hello and welcome to a new France 24 interview. Our guest today is a man who's had a lot of experience of the mysteries of diplomacy. Robert Ford is the US ambassador to Syria. Welcome.
Hello.
What message does the United States have for the Syrian people and for the government, the regime in Syria? Over 5,000 people have been killed in Syria. Confrontations continue. Armed groups have been formed. What is your message?
The most important message is as follows. Violence should cease right away. Killings, and most particularly the killings of civilians without weapons in cities such as Homs or Azabadani, those killings should cease as soon as possible, right away. Message number two, it is necessary for medical treatments be provided to the injured. Those injured people should be provided with treatments. And number one, killings should cease. Those killings are unacceptable. And shellings, as was stated by President Obama 3 to 4 days ago, those shellings are horrendous. And Syria needs a peaceful and political solution. The U.S., along with its partners and the international community, support a political, peaceful transition and change.
When you left Damascus, when you left Syria, what impressions did you have? What contacts have you made? Some people consider you as a very brave man for having made contact with the opposition, but the government says that you have gone beyond the remit of a diplomat.
First of all, allow me to share with you my feelings, the feelings I had in the last days I spent in Damascus. First of all, fear prevails in Damascus. People see the future with fear. People die in the suburbs of the capital city, 20 minutes away from Midtown Damascus. Now, this is something new to the inhabitants of the capital city. They are surprised. They are surprised by the great number of armed groups, even in the suburbs of Damascus. Christians and other minority groups also have fear and see the future with fear. They see the emergence of a fundamentalist government with fear.
What do you mean by armed groups?
They see the future with fear from a general standpoint. The Syrian opposition, for example, the National Transition Council, or the opposition in general inside the country. Everybody stated that they wanted a government to deal with minorities without discrimination. Without discrimination based on faith, community, complying with Syrian diversity. Syria is a multicultural country with a long history, but those minority groups see the future with fear. But at the same time, economic conditions are getting worse. Plants close down, unemployment goes up, prices skyrocket. Even in the capital city, absolutely. Electricity is cut off for 4 to 5 hours a day. At 3 o'clock in the morning, for example, or at 3 p.m. There is a problem when it comes to a fuel supply, and this is a problem in the winter. And in Halab, the second city in the country, now this is the industrial capital city, the electricity is cut off for 12 hours.
Let's go back to your impressions. The United States seems incapable of preventing the regime from attacking and continuing to have military operations and to be violent. Are the United States powerless in the face of this situation?
First of all, as far as we're concerned, there needs to be a political solution. And This solution should be carried out through peaceful means. The veto that occurred last week in New York bodes ill. Without that veto, the peaceful solution would have been swifter and easier. We do have the intention of making greater efforts from three different standpoints. From the economic standpoint, we're going to strengthen sanctions against those business people that support and bankroll the Syrian government. This should be done in consultation with our partners in Japan, Europe, and Arab countries, the United Emirates, for example, or Jordan, Lebanon. Number two, the international community shall deploy greater efforts with the Syrian community so as to ease the work of the opposition and ease this political transition. Allow me to cut you off because what I'm saying is quite important. Number three, and especially in the wake of the last shellings, according to the information we got, about 65,000 Syrians had to flee their homes. Why? Because their homes were bombed out, the buildings were bombed out, and those refugees fled to cities and suburbs of Damascus, and they're having problems finding shelter. They're having financial problem, and along with our partners within the international community, we need to find the necessary financial means to support those refugees.
The refugees in the destroyed towns and cities. When you say that Russia's veto favors the continuation of the military operations, but the position of the United States seems to be hesitant, is not very clear. Doesn't this give a free hand to the Syrian regime to continue the military operations, the shelling, and prevent it from putting an end to the situation? There are armed groups fighting against the regime. Do you want to continue with this situation?
With all the respect I owe you, allow me to express my disagreement. No, we're not dithering, we're not hesitating, but the American position is stating that we reject any type of military intervention in Syria. Let's be clear about it.
You don't want to support the Free Syrian Army militarily?
We are striving for a peaceful solution, and even the Syrian people do not want a military solution to this problem, to the Syrian crisis. And as I already said, we are going to work with other countries, with the Arab League. We can work on the return of observers to Syria with a strengthened delegation and with a sufficient number of observers so that they may be on the field around the clock.
You talked about, are you talking about an Arab mission or with an international participation?
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about this with the United Nations and the Arab League. From the American standpoint, we're open. We remain open to any type of proposals and suggestions. What is absolutely paramount is for the Arab League to make a decision on what they want exactly, and we are then going to see how we shall deal with that decision.
What are the United States worried about if the situation turns into a civil war? What alternatives exist to Bashar al-Assad?
We would like to see a peaceful political transition. What do we mean by the word transition? We mean a gradual opening of the regime. The regime should open itself up to fundamental human rights, free speech, the freedom of setting up political or charity organizations without any type of constraints or hurdles from the part of the government, or the freedom to demonstrate peacefully. So the first stage, all type of political transition towards freedom,
with the continued presence of Bashar al-Assad?
The Syrian people should make this decision. Neither the Americans nor the international community should decide. The Syrian people will make the proper decision. We voiced our opinion, but this is just an opinion, nothing else. We believe that after 10 years, al-Assad has been in power for 10 years now, and we have never ever seen any fundamental political reforms. We're not optimistic when it comes to the respect of those fundamental human rights in Assad's speeches, and the speech he made on the 10th of January, for instance, in Damascus. Al-Assad did not utter one single word on the respect of fundamental human rights, free speech, and the right to demonstrate. And this gradual political transition is impossible as long as Assad is in power, and we hence believe that he should step down. But at the end of the day, the Syrian people will make the decision, not the Americans.
Robert Ford, thank you very much for having given us some of your time for this interview with France 24. Thank you for watching the interview with the Ambassador of the United States to Syria, Robert Ford.